So I just got finished playing through Lost Soul-Aside. For those who don't know, this game was conceived by one man and for a while was developed by this one man, Yang Bing. Sorry if I'm pronouncing the name incorrectly. Now this one man created a trailer and it showed off something really promising. Years later, Sony started up this program called the China Hero Project. Now I'm just going to read this directly from the website. The China Hero Project is a PlayStation mentoring and support initiative for China-based developers, helping them create incredible games that reach a global audience. So this one man who was developing a game that was heavily inspired by Final Fantasy, specifically Versus 13, was now a team of 40. That is crazy. And after 9 years from the initial trailer, the game has finally released. And it hasn't been getting the best reception. So in this video, this is going to be a minimally edited video in which I rant and rave about my pros and cons for this product. And at the end of it, I'm going to tell you if I think this is something that's worth buying. There's going to be little spoilers here, so don't worry about that, though there may be some gameplay spoilers based on what you see on screen. That being said, let's start with the combat, right? So this is your standard hack and slash style combat. Think Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, Ninja Gaiden. It's very much like that, but with some RPG element. To be honest, at first your base combat didn't really feel too exciting to me. But as the game goes, you unlock more weapons and more abilities, and by the end of it, you're basically a Swiss Army man. And I would say this game does a good job pacing out those unlockables, so you're not just thrown too much at once, and you're constantly getting new stuff, which keeps you more intrigued in that combat loop. Your generalized movement is pretty good, and that's important because there is a lot of platforming in this game. I know, shocker. Your basic level format is full of either A, platforming, B, enemy arenas, or C, boss fights. This game likes to throw a lot of boss fights at you. Sometimes it feels like more of a boss gauntlet than anything else. But when it gets to slow down and you have your time to explore these little landscapes they give you and you can platform around, it feels good. There's good, solid control here. Every once in a while, this game likes to throw a set piece at you. Either A, it's going to be playable, or B, it's just to watch and it's a cool cutscene. You get to see your main character, Kaiser, do some crazy backflips and shit. You get a decent amount of both styles of set piece, and both of them will show kind of a cool style to the game. One thing you'll notice while playing through this game is style seems to be a very important thing. Even your regular combos look flashy and cool. Overall, this game is very linear, but I do like how they give you a progression marker, and the main reason why I love this, all you fellow people out here understand what I'm about to say. When there's like a twist in the road and you have two paths to go down, you want to go down the wrong one first to get the collectibles, and then go down the right one next, of course, to progress through the game. In this game, you have little markers to know where you're supposed to go, and that way, you know, oh, I should go that other route to get that collectible first. Thank God. These linear games, you don't need that really, but it does help, I don't know, make your first playthrough less infuriating. You know what I'm saying? You can really explore at your own leisure and know that you're actively missing something or not. As you're playing through these levels, you get your boss fights, and then after those boss fights, you get cutscenes, but the transition between boss fight and cutscene is very abrupt. Like, it's hard to explain. Like in Kingdom Hearts, when you beat the boss, you get this slowdown effect before it moves over to cutscenes, right? You'll see that kind of thing in a lot of action-based games, but this game doesn't do that. There's no slow motion. Boom, cutscene. There is no in between, there's no transition, you're just there. And it can leave things feeling a bit awkward. That's really all my notes on gameplay. It does everything very well, but not so much so that it really sticks out more than some games like Devil May Cry. I use that as my linchpin on how successful of a hack and slash style game you are. Devil May Cry is the top, what can I say? Up next is the audio, you know, music, voice acting, surrounding sound effects, all that jazz, right? First, the music. I have 0 notes, which to me is a sin. When it comes down to heavy action-based games, I want to be humming a tune here or there, at least by the end of my game, right? Another sore spot here is the voice acting. I'm pretty sure you've all seen the clips online of Kaiser falling down in the scream. You know, it's not the most impressive voice acting. Now, I don't like to blame the voice actors when it comes down to that kind of thing. Usually I like to blame the director because they're the ones that really tell the actors how they're supposed to act for the scene, right? And I would imagine they're skilled enough to get the job, so they have a skill set to begin with. That being said, sometimes it did feel more like a fan dub than an actual dub. Now, those two complaints aren't necessarily the worst, but this last one to me is a cardinal sin of action games. The sound effects to your combat feel like wet noodles slapping each other. It's not punchy. It needs more pizzazz. Just listen to the background of this video, right? You can see the combat, you can see me fighting, and it just doesn't sound right. I don't feel like I'm hitting someone with a sword. It doesn't feel correct. It makes the combat feel awkward. In fact, most of my early gameplay problems were resolved once I kind of got over that sound issue. It took a bit, but even by the end, I just felt like it wasn't punchy enough. I shouldn't have to get over it for it to become a better gameplay experience, if that makes sense. Next up, we got graphics, right? How pretty is the game? What's the physical presentation of this experience? Overall, the environments look really nice. They're varied, you have all sorts of particle effects going in the combat. This game is a very pretty game. But I do have to stress, I hate the character models. Now, I don't mean in combat and flow of gameplay, they look fine. But during more slower moments, when you get to actually look at these models, they look more like dolls than actual humans, and they move a little awkwardly and kind of janky. When you're in the home village or the home city, you're looking around, you're talking to people, and they just look off. They look strange. I don't like it. I don't like the way the characters look, and some of the pre-released footage that we have for the, gameplay trailers and all that, the models looked better there than they do here, and I don't exactly know why it is this way. I feel the same way about Stellar Blade and some other titles, so maybe it's an art style issue I have? I don't know. If it's just art style, I'm sorry, but I'm not a fan of it. Next up is the story. No spoilers here, just my overall vibe of what we got here, okay? So in my notes, I wrote, this might be kind of harsh, silhouettes of cool moments surrounded by nothing burger of a story. Now the story does a good job facilitating the action and moving you forward throughout the levels, and really, as a bare minimum, it does its job very well. But I can be picky, and when I play games, I do enjoy the stories they give us, and I wasn't a big fan of what they gave me here. On the counter argument to that, it might be the presentation of the story more than the story itself. Like I said, I didn't like the character models, and the way they present the story is through a lot of these more stilted interactions you and someone else have. There is a good bit of story you can find through reading text by picking up these notes and whatnot, and there is a decent story there. I think it's more the presentation of the story you have than the story itself that's bad, if that makes sense. It gives me kind of like a sci-fi movie channel vibe, if that makes sense. You know how some of those movies were kind of cheap? Not bad, a little cliche, if you would, but you enjoyed yourself throughout. It's kind of like that. So yeah, we went over gameplay, audio, graphics, story. Now time for my final thoughts. This game is 100% inspired by Final Fantasy, from its loading screens to its aesthetic. Even has an evil empire and a crystal theme, right? But you know what? This game does a really good job having Final Fantasy as that reference, and it's kind of a nice love letter to that franchise. The story might not be the best part of the experience, but guides you along through the gameplay very well and gets you to those set pieces the way it needs to. For me, this game was just about 16 hours of gameplay. I didn't do as much exploring as I usually do. I definitely missed some stuff, so there is things for me to go back and rediscover. There is a good amount of replay value though, because after you beat the game, you do have more difficulty options that get unlocked on top of a chapter select. Very Devil May Cry, choose your mission style, right? And you do actually have new abilities that you unlock for that endgame climax you can use for your continued gameplay experience. So that's something you can be excited to use when you revisit the game, Overall, the big question here, is it worth the cost? Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to say no, and it's mostly actually due to the presentation than anything else. This game, I would say it's a good $40 game. As a $60 game, that's asking for a bit much of the average player. For my closing thought, I'll leave you with my Steam review. The game has some flaws, but overall, I enjoyed my time. It's hard to recommend due to the cost, but if traditional hack and slash is for you, you'll definitely find a meaty experience. And that's it. Hope you guys had fun watching me rave without a script. And I want to hear your thoughts on this game. Did you like it? Do you think it's worth the cost? Did you enjoy your time with it? I'd love to read all these things and more. If you like this kind of video, let me know. If you want to see me cover other games in this kind of format, let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys thought. And with that, see you next time.